to, yes, another episode of Teacher's Lounge. I am your host, Mrs. Piper, and it is so wonderful to be back here on the mothership, better known as WHPR-TV 33. So wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. Thank you for having us in your homes. Before we get started, listening audience, can you just say your righteous prayers for Brother R.J. Watkins? And before we get started and go any further, we just want to pause for a moment of silence for our slain officer, the young man, Officer Glenn Doss, and his family. Just a moment of silence, please. Services for Officer Doss will be held at 23500 West 7 Mile. That's 4H219. The family hour is at 10 o'clock. Services start at 11. Again, for Officer Glenn Doss and his beloved family, we here at Teacher's Lounge, utmost, deepest sympathy, deepest sorrow. And again, for those that are interested in attending the service, 23500 West 7 Mile, 48219. Family hour is at 10 o'clock. Services start at 11. We here at the Teacher's Lounge, we have to thank Minister Malik Shabazz and the Get Up Stand Up Show for sharing his platform with us here at the Teacher's Lounge every Thursday from 8 to 9. We also want to thank Available Geeks and Brother David Mohammed for being the sponsor of the Teacher's Lounge all 3 years that we have been at this mighty, mighty, mighty station. Want to have these wonderful guest hosts. We have Brother Will with us. He's back. Brother Weir's back. Brother Weir's back. Hasn't been here for a while. You look good, Brother Weir.
Oh, well, guess you still need glasses.
He's not even that ugly. He's a handsome man. Handsome man. And we have Miss Falk here. How are you, Miss Falk?
Doing well. Doing well.
Still on the highway Facebook.
What's up, Facebook? Thanks for tuning in.
Hi, Facebook. Miss Falk always gives greetings. I forget about you. And no disrespect. I am so excited. Everybody, I'm so excited. We have the well-renowned, the brainiac, look who I'm sitting next to, Mike Imhotep.
Yes, how you doing?
Yes, sir. He is in the house with that crisp, quick voice.
Thanks for having me.
Oh, please, it is a pleasure. Thank you for coming.
No problem.
And of course, audience, if you want to join the conversation, we got new numbers here. This is new for me. 313-365-7379. Again, you want to join the conversation? Give us a call here at Teacher's Lounge at 313-365-7379. Happy Black History Month, everybody. Happy Black History Month, sir. Happy Black History Month. Yes, sir.
Kicking it off today.
Yes, yes. And just a little bit more about this wonderful man seated next to me. Mr. Imhotep. He is the founder of the African History Network show, which is seen, or heard rather, on 9:10 a.m. radio. Mr. Imhotep was guest hosted many national radio shows, including the Warren Ballantyne Show and the Roland Martin Show. Mr. Imhotep has been featured in many documentaries, including Elementary Genocide 3, Academic Holocaust, and Resurrecting Black Wall Street. And we're going to come back to that really quick, because I want to tell you this gentleman's motto, which I love. I even wrote it down. His motto: right knowledge corrects wrong behavior. I'm going to say that again, because I'm a teacher. Right knowledge corrects wrong behavior. Now, I'm going to liken it. I'm going to take that wonderful motto,
Okay.
and place it on a piece of history, since it's Black History Month,
Sure.
that I didn't know about until 6 years ago.
Okay.
And I consider myself a scholar. I've been to school. I've been to several colleges. I got my degree from Delaware State University, my master's from Cheney, and I never knew about Black Wall Street. Never was taught to me.
Sure.
And don't get me wrong, I didn't seek it out because I didn't know about it.
Right.
I'm not going to assume that anyone knows about Black Wall Street. So, sir, will you be kind enough to educate our audience about Black Wall Street and, more important, when it was?
Sure. So, you had more than one Black Wall Street, but the most popular one was in Tulsa, Oklahoma. Okay. So, you're going to have the seeds of Black Wall Street laid around 1836. Reason why is because Tulsa, Oklahoma was founded by Creek Indians around 1836. Who got pushed off of their land in the southeastern United States because of the Indian Removal Act of 1830. Okay, so the Choctaw, Chickasaw, Creek, Cherokee, and Seminole Indians were pushed off of their land, and they're pushed out west on what's known as the Trail of Tears. And all five of those, what Europeans call the five civilized tribes of Native Americans, they all go into Oklahoma.
So where I'm from, you know.
Yeah, okay.
Muskogee. My people from Muskogee.
Muskogee, which is a Native American word, Native American tribe, also Muskogee. So at this point in time, Oklahoma is a territory of the U.S., but it's not a state in the Union. It doesn't become a state in the Union until 1907. About a third of the people who go out into Oklahoma with the five civilized tribes of Native Americans were African people, because all five civilized tribes owned black slaves. Okay. Now, there's a debate over were all of them slaves or some indentured servants or what have you. Okay, whatever. But nonetheless, a third of them were African people. So after the Civil War ends, you have the Black Freedmen Indian Treaties of 1866. And these Indian treaties exist because the five civilized tribes of Native Americans, when the Civil War takes place, they all side on behalf of the South. They all side on behalf of the South to keep slavery intact, because they all own slaves. They took up arms against the Union, and they fought on behalf of the South to keep slavery in place. All right. So some of them don't give up their slaves to 1866, 1867, but you have these treaties. So when they violate, what happened was when they took up arms against the Union, they didn't know that it violated treaties that they signed with the Union. And these treaties stated that they could never take up arms against the Union. So their Indian territories were taken away, and they were put on Indian reservations. All right, you're going to have land and resources given to those former slaves that they own. And one of the stipulations of the Black Freedmen Indian Treaties of 1866 is that they become, they get those former slaves get full membership in the Union, in those nations, and they get land, they get resources, things like this. So a lot of the early,
they get restored.
A lot of the early African American land owners in Tulsa got land from those treaties. All right. So oil is going to be discovered in Oklahoma in the early 1900s, somewhere around 1905 or so. And then you're going to have business owners like O.W. Gurley, J.B. Stratford. They're going to set up businesses. Now, because of segregation, the railroad track is going to separate North Tulsa from South Tulsa. The African Americans are going to be pushed into what's known as North Tulsa. The business district in North Tulsa becomes known as Black Wall Street. Okay, so eventually they're going to have about 600 businesses. You have some multimillionaires, about 21 multimillionaires, because of largely because of the oil that's discovered in the oil industry, and because of segregation, a lot has to do with segregation. They're going to have a society that basically they control. You're going to have a small percentage of Native Americans that live there, because once again, Tulsa was founded by Creek Indians. Actually, Tulsa comes from a Creek Indian word, Talasi. Okay, this is the origin of the word Tulsa. So it was predominantly African American town, it wasn't an all black town. So it's going to be very prosperous. It's going to be resentment that takes place in the white community. So you have the whites who live in South Tulsa. African Americans live in North Tulsa. It's also called Little Africa, which is a derogatory term for it. So what's going to happen is eventually it's going to be attacked by a white mob. Now, this takes place June 1st, 1921. Okay, this is about 7 or 8 years, 6 years after 1915. 1915 is when not just World War I is taking place from 1914 to 1918, but 1915 is also when the movie The Birth of a Nation comes out. So the movie The Birth of a Nation, they debuted February 8, 1915. And it's on the 50th year anniversary of the ending of the Civil War, the ending of slavery, and the passing of the ratification and adoption of the 13th Amendment, which legally freed enslaved African people. So the movie The Birth of a Nation is going to rejuvenate the Ku Klux Klan, which had pretty much died out by 1915 because the Ku Klux Klan was founded by former Confederate soldiers December 24th, 1865 in Pulaski, Tennessee. So by 1915, a lot of these former Confederate soldiers had died out, things like this. But because the movie, The Birth of a Nation, which is based upon a novel called The Klansman by a man named Thomas Dixon, because in the movie, the Ku Klux Klan are the heroes of the movie, and the movie takes place during slavery, the Civil War, and the area at the time after the Civil War called Reconstruction. The Ku Klux Klan puts down a rebellion of former Union Negro soldiers, okay, in a white town in the South. I think it was Virginia, South Carolina, I can't remember which one. So this rejuvenates the Ku Klux Klan. This becomes a huge movie. It causes race riots in the streets. And what takes place is it becomes so popular that the Ku Klux Klan uses the movie as a recruiting tool, okay? So in some newspapers where ads were taken out for the movie The Birth of a Nation, the Ku Klux Klan would oftentimes take out recruiting ads to join the Ku Klux Klan next to the ads for The Birth of a Nation. So the Ku Klux Klan has become instrumental in organizing and galvanizing hatred towards the African Americans in Tulsa, Oklahoma, because after World War I, which ends in 1918, a lot of these white men who had jobs before they went to the war came back and they didn't have jobs. 1915 also begins the Great Migration, which is from 1915 to 1960, and you have approximately 5 million African Americans who migrate from the South up north and then out west. Well, the reason why they're going up north largely is because they're being lured up north by corporations to fill these jobs that these white men left when they went to fight in the war. So you have all these tensions that are flaring, and it's being manipulated by the Ku Klux Klan there in Oklahoma and in Tulsa as well. So June 1st, the invasion takes place in the morning around 6:15 a.m. You have about 10,000 whites that invade this town. The population was 11,000 African Americans. You had a lot of former World War I black veterans that lived there as well. So contrary to popular belief, these black men fought back also, and they shot back as well because they were armed. Okay. So what happens is May 30th, 1921, you have this shoeshine boy named Dick Rowland, who's known as the boot black. That's what they call shoeshine boys, boot blacks. And he's going into the elevator in the office building, some type of building, and the elevator operator, so it was a white girl, she's about 17 years old, and the elevator is not level. So when he steps in, he trips, and he grabs her arm, she screams. People come running, they think he's trying to attack her, okay? Word gets out, spreads, that this black guy tried to attack this woman. Initially, she gives some false information about what happened. There's a headline from one of the white newspapers, something to the effect of "To lynch a Negro tonight," right? He is arrested by the sheriff. You have a white mob that's outside the sheriff's office to break up, to take him out and lynch, about 500 white men. You eventually have about 200 African American men. You eventually have about 200 African American men who are armed, who go to the sheriff's office to back up the sheriff and protect Dick Rowland. Because you have former World War I veterans, so these brothers weren't punks. Right. These brothers were armed.
That's right.
Okay? So what's going to take place is Black Wall Street is going to be invaded June 1st, 1921. They're going to use machine guns, they attack, they kill.
Dynamite.
Well, yeah, but that wasn't the big thing that did it. The big thing that did it was just the mob of 10,000 white people coming in and attacking,
with their
and they burned down about 1,200 African American homes. They ransacked the homes, things like that, because there's a lot of jealousy. They were segregated by law. Then you get jealous because they're successful.
Right.
Okay,
right.
So this is what takes place. So martial law is going to be declared. The governor is going to send in the chief martial law is declared. And martial law, when the National Guard comes in, this causes actually the white mob to back off because they don't want to have to deal with the military. as well. They set up a concentration camp there in Tulsa, Oklahoma. The Red Cross comes in and set up a hospital. They use the Booker T. Washington High School as a makeshift hospital. The numbers of African Americans who were killed vary. The Red Cross, their count was 300, but it was probably into the thousands because you had a lot of African Americans who fled Tulsa, who fled North Tulsa and went into surrounding cities, and they're going to die there. There are also reports of seeing people dumping black bodies into the river, things like this as well. So, but what's going to happen is that we're going to rebuild Black Wall Street with our own dollars because we didn't get government help. We didn't get even we didn't get the insurance companies for most of the claims didn't pay on the claims, and even the city council, which is a white city council there in Tulsa. Because remember, Tulsa is separated by the railroad tracks, but most of the elected officials are white. So the white city council passed an ordinance stating that any new buildings or homes built had to be fire resistant. They were trying to reduce us from being able to rebuild. So there was an African American law firm, and during the winter of 1921, you had about 1,000 African Americans who were homeless. They were living in tents. Okay, you had this African American law firm that set up their law office in a tent, and from a tent they fought the city council. And this case goes to Oklahoma State Supreme Court, and this African American law firm fighting from a tent defeats the city council, and they're able to rebuild. So they're going to rebuild. So by 1942, you have somewhere around 240 African American owned businesses. Going into the 40s, you get about 400. They're going to rebuild. They rebuilt without government help. Also, this is something important to understand.
Bootstraps.
Well, yeah, probably, yeah, bootstraps some. But they rebuilt without government help because the white people, they did not want them to rebuild. Right? They were very jealous of them. So what's going to kill it? You have a couple of things. You have three main things. One, a lot of the pioneers and founders there are going to die off. They leave land to their offspring. Their offspring are going to go and move to other cities, sell off the land, things like this. They really didn't value it as much as the pioneers.
Sure.
Two, the civil rights movement unintentionally was going to take place in the 50s and going into the 60s. You're going to have some African Americans who take some of their dollars and spend them in the white community, which before they were not able to do that, okay? Because during the heyday of Black Wall Street, the dollar circulated between 36 and 100 times. Three, in the 1970s, the expressways are going to come through. And the expressways come through because of the U.S. Interstate Highway Act of 1952 and 56. That drives 41,000 miles of U.S. Interstate Highway all throughout the country. It runs through approximately 1,600 African American communities. In 1964, it runs through Hastings Street, Blackbound, this is I-375, which displaced a lot of those people. A lot of those people moved over to the 12th Claremont area. So July 23rd, 1967, when the Detroit Rebellion jumps off, a lot of those people were already ticked off because they got displaced from their homes.
And the displacement was pretty intentional.
Oh, it was intentional.
It wasn't just that they happened to need a highway
No,
there.
it was intentional because the U.S. Interstate Highway Act of 1952 and 56, which was federal policy, was also lobbied for by the auto industry. It's lobbied for by the auto industry because you have white people moving out to the suburbs because of the Federal Housing Act of 1947. And the Federal Housing Act of 1947 allowed white, which is federal policy once again, allowed white people to put 3% down on low interest loans and get houses built out in the suburbs. When African Americans tried to apply for these loans, we were denied these loans, right? And then when we tried to use these loans to buy property in our communities in the inner city, we were told these were high risk areas. Well, the whole redlining system comes from another government entity called the Homeowners Loan Corporation, created in 1933 by the New Deal. Franklin Delano Roosevelt and the New Deal. The Homeowners Loan Corporation and the Federal Housing Administration were used to shift resources into the hands of Europeans. And when we tried to apply for these loans that our taxpayer dollars were paying for, we were usually denied these loans. This is why the redlining exists today. That's created by the federal government. So when you study the history, you find out a lot of these things like the ghettos that we talk about. Well, these ghettos are created because of the redlining process. Which increases, and the insurance companies used it, and the real estate companies used it, okay? Coming from the federal government, right? So everybody should read a book called How White Folks Got So Rich, The Untold Story of American White Supremacy. How White Folks Got So Rich, The Untold Story of American White Supremacy. read that book. And then also read Black Labor, White Wealth by Dr. Claude Anderson.
What was it called?
Black Labor, White Wealth. Black Labor, White Wealth by Dr. Claude Anderson. But this is why history is so important, because the people's history and culture teaches them how to deal with the problems of the past, in the present, and the future to meet the needs of the community. And
So I understand. I understand that Black Wall Street was so wonderful, so popular, so potent that France was ready to do business with them.
I've heard that. I've heard that. And then you had white people from, they had a bank there in Black Wall Street. They had a movie theater. They had churches. Actually, 2 movie theaters. They had churches. They had grocery stores. You would have some white people in South Tulsa who were coming to North Tulsa to borrow money from the African Americans there, things like this. So you have a combination of things that lead to this. But the other thing that we have to understand is that we're going to see, so 1921 was 2 years after 1919. 1919 was known as the Red Summer, okay? 1919 was known as the Red Summer, all right? And 1919 was the year after World War I ends. So you have all these white men coming back home, and it was African Americans and immigrants doing the jobs that they had before they left.
Right.
This causes, you had about 25 major race riots all across this country in 1919. It was called the Red Summer because the streets of America were flowing with blood. Okay, this is 6 years after the movie The Birth of a Nation, which caused race riots in the streets.
Right.
Okay, then in 1917 you have the East St. Louis race riot, right, which leads to the Silent March in New York, the Silent March in New York, which was a silent march of about 10,000 African Americans who were calling for a federal anti-lynching law to be passed. Okay, so you got to understand all this history. We have to understand how a sequence of historical events lead to other events taking place, and this deals with what's taking place today. And the most important thing is that Dr. Carter G. Woodson, who created African American History Month and started out as Negro History Week, he felt that the history of African Americans needed to be taught in every school across the country, not just black schools. White schools, every school across the country, because he firmly believed, and he's correct, that the racism, the prejudice, the bigotry largely comes from ignorance and people not being taught our history.
Right. I got one more question and I'm going to fall back. I promise.
Go ahead.
I promise. Okay. See, like I said, black, those are my people. You said Creek Indians. I am a Creek Indian.
Mm-hmm. Well, a lot of us have Native American ancestry, and African people were also here before Native Americans came into existence. So people should read The First Americans Were Africans, Documented Evidence by Dr. David Imhotep.
Yes,
also.
Lord. Come on now.
Yes.
Now, just the Great Depression, and I'm trying to link the two. Is it fair to say that Black Wall Street, after Black Wall Street was destroyed, that had an impact, a financial impact on America, henceforth, Great Depression? Like one precipitated the other.
I wouldn't draw a correlation between the two. The Great Depression starts in 1929 because of the stock market crash.
Okay.
1929. Black Wall Street is 1921. I wouldn't draw a correlation between the two. And also, not even karma. Well, we can call a lot of things karma. We can call
somebody looking out,
We can call Donald Trump chickens coming home to roost.
Yes, here at the Teacher's Lounge, yes.
And then also on Facebook, they're calling for a sound mic check also. A mic check as well.
Okay.
But if we look at, even though Black Wall Street was attacked and a lot of buildings were burned, it wasn't totally destroyed. Okay? So that's important to know. A lot of businesses were burned, things like this, but it wasn't totally destroyed, and we rebuilt it. Okay, which is very important. So this deals with the will and spirit of African people also. Okay, but 1929 is going to be horrific. The Great Depression is going to be horrific for African Americans as well. The reason why is because a lot of the policies put into place because of the New Deal, right? These government policies are largely going to put their resources into the hands of states, and states are going to allocate them disproportionately to white people, number one. So you have the Minimum Wage Act created in 1935, the Social Security Administration created in 1935.
Was that with the 10-cent Indian or the penny Indian?
$5
million.
million. But that goes back to 1887 and the Dawes Allotment Act of 1887.
The big brain on Mike Imhotep.
The Dawes Allotment Act was another white affirmative action program for white people. It was a giveaway of land. So as opposed to redistribute 138 million acres of land to African Americans and Native Americans, well, white people got 2/3 of that land. The Dawes Allotment Act, named after Senator Henry L. Dawes of Massachusetts, DAWES. Okay, so you're going to have these land giveaways, like the Homestead Act of 1862, which gave away millions of acres of land, so somewhere between 400,000 and 600,000 families. To the head of household, they got 160 acres of land. They had to take care of it for 5 years. 1862. This is during the Civil War.
Right.
This is the second year of the Civil War, right? Land redistribution, but largely goes into the hands of white people. Were largely blocked out of getting that land. Okay, so so the Great Depression was horrific for America, but it was pneumonia for us because we lost a lot of our farms, at least 200,000 of our farms, and a lot of the resources put in place, like they created a fund for white farmers to get money to pay their mortgages. Well, we got locked out of that.
Right.
So we lost a lot of our farms, which is in this land, there's acres of land attached to these farms.
I had a question. You were talking
Go ahead.
about redlining,
Sure.
both in history and today, and I
Mhm.
kind of, for viewers that might not know what you mean by that, to
Sure.
explain what redlining is, and I know I've encountered numerous people trying to deny the fact that it's still happening.
Mhm.
Well, that's a thing of the past.
Oh, no, it's still
We
happening.
wouldn't legally do that now. That's not legal. It might be legal, but not. It's unconstitutional,
Mhm.
but it's still happening.
It still happens.
And I think
still
it's
legal.
important. What are the facts? I guess as someone who encounters that, and I'm like,
Mhm.
what can I say for data? What can I refer to factually to
Mhm.
combat that? And where does
Right.
that come from? What is that term? And when we say redlining, what do we mean?
Well, redline. It was an
It's
article
a nice
from
buzzword,
National.
that.
Good question.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's an article from National Public Radio, NPR.org, called "Historian Says Don't Sanitize How Our Government Created Ghettos." Historian says don't sanitize how our government created ghettos. So this deals with the history of the black ghettos. It deals with the New Deal. They interviewed, he's from the, I think it's not the National Policy Institute. I'll give you his name here in just a minute. But he talks about the history of redlining and
What is
listen,
redlining when you say that term?
Rich-
Just for people that
Richard,
don't know.
Richard Rothstein from the Economic Policy Institute. So what happened was it's a grading system where communities have an A, B, C, D grade, and this deals with risk when it comes to making loans to them. All right, and largely the African American communities had a red line drawn around them, had a grade of D. All right, and one of the things he talks about is how we have a myth today that the ghettos in metropolitan areas around the country are what the Supreme Court calls de facto, just the accident of the fact that people have not enough income to move into middle-class neighborhoods, or because real estate agents steered black and white families to different neighborhoods, or because there was white flight. He said it was not the unintended effect of benign policies. It was an explicit, racially purposeful policy that was pursued at all levels of government, and that's the reason we have these ghettos today, and we are reaping the fruits of those policies. So people should read this, because this deals with how politics impacts every aspect of our life. I'm all for economic empowerment, but Dr. Claude Anderson, one of my teachers is Dr. Claude Anderson, when he lays out public policy and what happened to us, he says it was public policy that helped put us in this predicament. It's going to be public policy that has to take us out. Economic empowerment is good, but lack of economic empowerment was not the reason why the redlining took place. Okay? Then you have things like the GI Bill, 1944. Because the GI Bill was largely used, early on, largely used for white men who were veterans, right? So they could go get college educations, okay, and move into high-paying careers, and largely we're going to be barred from that, and then when we could use it, we're oftentimes directed into low entry-level jobs, okay? So people need to understand this type of history.
This is why. Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh no, go.
This is why I say, as far as education is concerned, I did my master's with critical literacy.
Okay.
Because what we do with history,
Mhm.
it's not objective, it's subjective. We make heroes out of people where they probably shouldn't be heroes.
Right.
We'll hear things like the New Deal, like it was such a wonderful thing.
Mm-hmm.
But until we start looking at these historical things critically,
Right.
our kids get the wrong idea of history. I can see why a lot of our kids don't think we have a history at all.
Mm-hmm.
You know, a lot of times when we're waving this flag, if we looked at a lot of what America has done since they first set foot over here, it's not all fun
Well, no.
and heroic.
No.
But and people say, you know, you want to change history or whatever the case may be. But if you think about how this country was founded and what's going on today, I think it's because we have not taken an honest look at history.
Well, what happens is we're not trying to change history. People talk about revision.
Revision
is
is that's
history.
the word I
No,
was
we're
trying
trying to
to
correct.
Correct.
We're trying to correct the misinformation. Okay, so there's oftentimes a pushback when it comes to correcting the misinformation. We look at the debate over the Confederate monuments, right? So Donald John Trump is in favor of keeping the Confederate monuments. I'm not surprised because he's a white supremacist, but you know. But when you look at the history of Confederate monuments, right? The Confederate monuments largely were not erected to honor the Confederate soldiers, right? You had 11 states in the Confederacy. Confederate States of America only lasted from 1861 to 1865.
Right. Exactly.
You got Confederate monuments in 31 states.
You would think it was
You-
decades and
Right.
centuries.
So what country erects monuments to honor traitors to the country who committed treason and took up arms against them? This is about white supremacy.
Right, and they lost the
Exactly.
war.
And well, not just lost the war, they committed treason.
Treason. That's
They
what
picked up arms against the Union. People, listen to me. You had 11 states in the Confederacy, but you got Confederate monuments in about 31 states in the country. All right. So the two big spikes, the two periods of time when you have the most of the Confederate monuments erected, because it's somewhere around 1500, 1895 to 1915, and 1955 to 1970. 1955 and 1970 is basically the Civil Rights Movement. They were erected in opposition to the Civil Rights Movement to remind African Americans of their position that white people wanted, what some white people wanted them to have. 1895 to 1915. 1895 is the year before Plessy versus Ferguson, 1896 Supreme Court case, which cemented, legalized Jim Crow laws, okay, separate but equal. And then 1915 is the second year of the war of World War I. And these monuments are erected once again during this period of time to terrorize African Americans. This is what this was about. This is why every Confederate monument needs to be taken down, and in its place needs to be a historical marker to explain, number one, what was there, number two, why it was taken down, and then the third thing that has to happen is that the historical curriculum in all of our schools has to be corrected to teach the real history.
Overhaul.
It has to be overhauled, has to be corrected. Because a lot of people unfortunately think the Civil War was about states' rights. No, it was states' rights to maintain slavery.
And
I
isn't
was-
it? Oh.
I started out in a Catholic school,
Mm-hmm.
and I was
Me
taught.
too.
Yeah, I was.
First
Maybe we
grade.
taught the same thing. I was taught that the Civil War was to free the slaves. Period. That's
Well,
what I was taught.
the Civil War was fought to bring the South back into the Union.
That's what. That's
Civil
not
War-
what
the
Sister
Civil-
Ketterman told me.
The Civil War was fought to bring the South back into the Union because Lincoln said that if he could keep the Union together and keep slavery intact, he would do that. So freeing the slaves became a political measure. It became a political football. This is what the Emancipation Proclamation was about, January 1st, 1863. There was an initial Emancipation Proclamation, September 22nd, 1862, the year before. And what he was trying to do is he was trying to bring the South back into the Union and strip the South of the slaves that they had because they were using the slaves to dig ditches, to cook food, to wash clothes. They were using them as a resource. So he was trying. It was a military measure, trying to strip them of that. Okay, the goal was not to free the slaves. Okay, because if you read the Emancipation Proclamation, and this is why it's one of the biggest jokes, one of the biggest cons in history. You know, it's about as big of a con as this guy in 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue. Right? If you can go to LOC.gov, the Library of Congress's website, LOC.gov, and read the Emancipation Proclamation, or you can go to archives.gov, the National Archive. So the Emancipation Proclamation tells you that the slaves in the states of rebellion are to be freed, but the slaves in the border states like Delaware that were in the Union, those people are still slaves.
They're still slaves.
So if you read it, they have all these exceptions. Territories that were in rebellion that came back under control of the Union, those people were still slaves. So if your goal is to free the slaves, then why don't you free all of them?
Right.
But at the same time, if these states seceded from the Union and set up their own government, then that means you no longer have control over them. So you can't say that they're slaves are free.
Something interesting when you were talking about the Confederate monuments,
Sure.
I was reminded by, I was at a panel last night and one of the speakers talked about how many streets and monuments are named after slave owners in Detroit.
Absolutely.
Cass,
Yeah,
Monroe,
Cass, Road, DeQuinder,
DeQuinder, and I just
Joseph
think,
Campbell. Yep.
so maybe this is my opinion, but I don't know if it's enough to just take it down. I think we need to replace it with an important part of history. So why do we
You
still
talking about the Confederate monuments?
Confederate monuments, or I mean, why is there a high school of predominantly African American students in Detroit named after a slave owner?
Well, the reason why is the reason
Like, and what do we do about that?
The reason why is because white flight took place. African Americans moved in, suburbs were built, right? So with the Confederate monuments, they need to be taken down. 1, 2, in their place need to be historical markers that explain what was here, why it was taken down, the history behind it. And then those Confederate monuments, they should not be destroyed. They should be put into museums. This is where this stuff belongs. They belong in museums. This is where you put relics. And then the historical curriculums across the country had to be corrected. You can do name changes. Now, some people, Cass Tech tried to do, there was talk about it, and the Alumni Association didn't want to do it. You can do the name change, and it has its purpose.
I'm just
to do the name
saying,
change.
to me, while it's not the same, and I am by no means saying a Confederate monument
Sure.
and a street name are equal, I'm just trying to draw a parallel to today and what we also see
Right.
in the ways that our monuments exist in Detroit. And then
Right.
our
Well, you got a monument of Christopher Columbus here in Detroit also.
Right.
Well, it makes no sense to have a monument of Christopher Columbus really anywhere in this country because Columbus never came to this land we call the United States of America.
Right.
So it makes no sense whatsoever. Okay, and he was a master of genocide. He brought genocide. He decimated the population everywhere he went, and he was exposed as a fraud and thrown in jail. So why would you erect a monument to somebody like that?
See, this is why I say, looking at our curriculum. In fact, everything we read from a critical literacy viewpoint. Not that we should remove these things by law, but once you start educating people as to who these people are, what
Right.
these monuments, what these things,
Right.
then I would say that people would demand that they get changed. In
Right.
fact, they probably wouldn't ask. They might go down there like they did other statues, throw ropes around them and pull them down. And but this is the kind of thing that I think needs to be done. Because a lot of times you get a few people that make laws, they change these things, but the general population never knows why.
Right. Well, they should know why.
Why they did it first.
They should know why. 1, 2. I'm totally against. I'm not saying you're advocating this, but I'm totally against vandalizing or tearing down Confederate monuments. I'm not saying you're saying it, but just because of some things that have happened, they should be taken down legally, and then they should be put in museums. Okay. Because I don't want people vandalizing the Dr. King statue.
No, I guess I'm saying. I guess what I'm saying about that, not that the people should go out there and tear them down.
And I'm not saying you're
but
saying
they would
that.
demand. Oh yeah, I know. But they
people
would
watching,
demand.
I don't want people to mistake what we're saying.
But when people realize, some of these things, historical, the facts that they would say, that would be the last resort. If you don't take these down from what I learned, because it's a lot of it, it's insulting.
Oh, it is.
Cass. I think of all the black people in Cass. That's insulting. That Christopher Columbus statue down there,
absolutely,
right off of Jefferson.
Absolutely,
it's insulting.
And then also
shouldn't be indignant about.
Also, very quickly, I want to announce that I'm doing a 2-day lecture series this weekend, February 3rd, February 4th, 2018, at the new Nandy's Knowledge Cafe, 71 Oakland Avenue, in Highland Park, Michigan, right off of Hamilton. Free event, donations accepted. Saturday is 2 p.m. to 6 p.m. Sunday, 1 p.m. to 4 p.m. This is the kickoff African American History Month. So Saturday, we're dealing with breaking the chains while we celebrate Black History Month, exposing the myths. So I'll deal with the history, the of African American History Month, why it was created, what we need to do to make it relevant for the day and the future. I'll dispel some myths about our history as well. And then Sunday, 1 p.m. to 4 p.m., The Light of Ancient Kemet Awakens the African Mind, or Egypt. The Light of Ancient Egypt Awakens the African Mind. For more information, visit our website, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com. AfricanHistoryNetwork.com. The information is there. You can order my DVD lectures. You can also call us 313-462-0003. 313-462-0003. You can also contact me if you want me to do a presentation for your group or organization. You can email me at info at AfricanHistoryNetwork.com. Info at AfricanHistoryNetwork.com, or call me 313-462-0003.
And we're going to have you next week to
Yes.
continue.
Part two.
Yes.
I'm excited to learn. I think it's really amazing how you put it, that we need to understand history to understand what's going on today.
Oh, absolutely.
And to understand the parallels, because I think there's a lot of misconceptions that these things aren't happening anymore.
Well, history repeats itself. We can look
And-
at the obstruction of justice taking place with Donald Trump,
Right.
which is a repetition of what happened to Richard Nixon, who resigned from office August 9, 1974. Even though articles of impeachment were drawn up, he resigned from office before he was put on trial. First article of impeachment was obstruction of justice. Second one was abuse of power.
You know what I would like to see? I would like to
Smart.
see,
Sitting next to you.
and you know, we've had our fair share of African-centered schools around
Sure.
the city of Detroit, but
Mhm.
but then I look at authors like J.A. Rogers,
Mhm.
Joseph Ben Johannan,
Yep. Dr.
John
Ben.
Henry Clark.
Dr. Clark. Yep.
It should be demanded
Mhm.
by us that they be included, not just a little piece here, a piece
Absolutely.
there. They
Absolutely.
should be an integral part of our textbooks.
Absolutely. Well, I know in the high schools, exactly. I know I was a guest lecturer in the Department of Africology and African American Studies at Eastern Michigan University for Dr. Patrick Pia's Introduction to Africology class. And their textbook includes Dr. Ida Van Servan, Dr. Yosef Ben Yakinen, Dr. John Henry Clark, or Dr. Naeem Akbar. They talk about ancient Kemet and Nubia and things like this in their textbook for the class. So this has to be brought down to the high school levels, middle school, elementary school. And even if it's not in the textbook, supplementary material needs to be incorporated into the classes as well.
But that's what I have to do. It's all supplemental material when I
Yeah.
teach in my class.
Mhm.
I mean, it's like just something as simple as getting kids to understand without you thinking that you're some kind of, radical trying to tear up America. Why I don't celebrate the 4th of July?
Well, the 4th of
And
July.
there's no anger.
The 4th of
And when
July.
I tell
Yeah.
people that there's no anger, when I
Well,
teach
well,
kids
well,
that there's no anger.
Well,
about
George Washington and the founding fathers were labeled as terrorists by King George III and the British. They were labeled as terrorists. Okay, so one man's terrorist is another man's freedom fighter.
We're going to take this caller. We got a little bit. We're going to try here. Caller, welcome to the Teacher's Lounge. Do you hear us clearly?
Yes, hi.
Hi. What's your question?
I'm really enjoying your show.
Thank
I
you.
wanted to ask Dr. Imhotep. He said something about Donald Trump has something to do with the chickens coming back to roost. Would he expound on that a little bit for me?
Very good.
Well,
Thank you, caller.
Donald Trump was enabled by the Republican Party. When Donald Trump was the leader of the birther movement for 5 years, the Republican Party largely did not push back on Donald Trump. Okay, and even though they repeatedly said when he, ran for office, they repeatedly said he's not a Republican, things like this, largely because they did not push back on him and denounce him when he was the leader of the birther movement. He's coming back to, really people are talking about the Republican Party will never be the same. Republican Party may be destroyed. People are talking about a constitutional crisis. If this memo, this fake memo put together by Nunes and his staff and Republicans, really, which is trying to claim that the FISA warrant, which was used to do surveillance on Carter Page, who the FBI was, who first interviewed back in 2013.
Right.
This guy was on that radar back in 2013. All right. So here you have the Republican Party, which is supposed to be the party of law and order, undermining their Department of Justice and undermining their FBI. You can't look in history and see where that happened and it ended up favorably for it. The last time we really saw that was Richard Nixon, and we know how that turned out for him. He resigned from office, but 48 people around Nixon went to prison.
I tell you, we just got the 2-minute warning from our producer. So we have to begin to wrap it up. The good news, audience, we have Dr. Imhotep here
Well, not
next
Dr.
week.
It's Michael Imhotep.
Michael
Dr. David Imhotep is my friend.
Yes, sir. We have Mr. Imhotep here next week, and we're going to get these phone lines together. The first 3 callers, we are going to give, we're going to donate to you, you just got to come to the station and get it, a DVD for Mr. Imhotep. We're not sure what you want, but it'll be free, okay? And by the way, this brother, I just purchased all the Hidden Colors.
Yes.
Okay.
We have all that stuff at our website also. And we'll have DVDs at Nanny's Knowledge Cafe this Saturday and Sunday. Go to AfricanHistoryNetwork.com. The information's there. So I have my DVD lectures, and documentaries at the lecture series this weekend also.
Call us, sorry we can't get to you. See us next week. We're going to have Mr. Imhotep back, 8 o'clock, here at the Teacher's Lounge. Thank you so much. See you next week.
Look up and
Thank
see
you
who
so much.
Imhotep was and see the resemblance of these two gentlemen.
Oh, we're off. Excellent.
So what do they call it? They call it
Thanks.
That one's by
Imhotep,
two.